Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Shit's Hard. I'm your host, Amber. And today we are talking about friendships. I feel like this is a good one just ever since moving across the country, having like long distance besties versus like having friends I came here with, especially with like mitigating like a breakup through friendships, in which we shared a lot of the same friends. So this is going to be a good episode today. Friends are super, super important and are difficult relationships to like upkeep. So we're going to be talking about communication, honesty, effort, and like guy friends. Just because, like, I don't know, I feel like I've had a lot of guy friends, so it's just something that I think would be fun to talk about. Let's get into it. I think that I have always had an easier time communicating in romantic relationships and a more difficult time communicating in like platonic relationships. And I want to talk about why that is because I've talked to a few people about this, and the princess is scratching herself right now. If you hear the collar jingle jangling, are you done? She just went. She's so fucking annoyed. So people that I've talked to about this have actually said that they have the opposite problem, that they feel like they're really good at communicating in friendships, not as good at communicating in relationships. I feel like I can communicate in a relationship because in a romantic relationship, because like the rules are like clear and like the intentions are clear. Like if I'm in a relationship with someone, like I said, like we're dating, then I'm like fully committed. I'm like in. Like it would take a lot for me to get there, but like if I say that I'm in, I'm in. And that means like, my intentions are like to put in effort, to put in work. We're like working toward a healthy, happy relationship. Like we're working toward keeping this thing going, whatever. And that's like a defined thing. It's like a definitive thing that started when you started dating. You know what I mean? Like someone has to ask me to be their girlfriend in order to be their girlfriend. That doesn't just like, develop. I mean, obviously it kind of develops, but like there is a specific point in time for me where it's like, yes or no. Yes, that's the direction we're moving. And like I can act accordingly. With friendships, it's a little bit different because, there's not like a definitive day where you're like, do you want to be friends? Yes or no. You know what I mean? It's like not this like clear cut thing where like the rules are defined. It's like the seriousness of friendships aren't defined either. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have acquaintances, friends, and best friends, and anywhere in between, work friends and shit like that. Whereas like a romantic relationship is like one thing for me. It's like very defined and I know what it is. Friendships, it's like, oh, I don't know if we're close enough for this. You know what I mean? Like I said, like there's no like time where we're like, oh, we're best friends now and we can act accordingly. And I'm not saying I want that. I'm not saying I want that at all. But I think like where the cloudiness comes in is what like throws me off and makes it more difficult for me to communicate my needs or wants or if I'm upset because I don't, and like not in a sad way. It's like I don't know how much they care about this friendship. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if they see me as an acquaintance or a friend or a best friend. And so it's like if they're doing something that upsets me, sometimes I have issues, like not issues. I just have like in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, like should I bring this up? Is it worth bringing up? You know what I mean? We're in a romantic relationship. It's like always worth bringing up because we're working toward like a happy, healthy relationship and fucking maybe marriage down the road. Like that's like a real thing. Where with friendships, it's like sometimes they drift apart and sometimes they drift back together. And like, but you don't like talk about it. Like if a friendship ends, for the most part, not always actually, like sometimes there isn't a definitive ending where like, it's like, oh, hey, we're done. From this point on, we're done being friends. You know what I mean? It's not like that. It's like usually just kind of like slowly happens and maybe you drift apart or maybe you just kind of stop talking or hanging out or maybe something does happen and then you stop talking to that person, but there still was never like a communicative moment where you guys talked about not being friends anymore. You know what I mean? So I don't know why. I think that that's why I am not as good communicating in friendships, which is super ironic because I think when people close to me find this out about me, they're like shocked because they're like, I'm like the girl with the podcast that's like talking about how shit's hard and like I have the best advice to give. I really do. I don't always take it. I do not always take it. Like sometimes I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome coming on this podcast and like giving out like my thoughts and my advice and like how to work through things because I think that I usually know how to work through them. I just don't always do it. I'm just like not the best at it. been many times in my life where like my friends or someone has done something that upset me. And for the most part, I personally am a very avoidant person. And if something starts to upset me and I don't know how to handle it or I'm uncomfortable handling it, I can just go ghost. Like there's like many friends in the past where I just went ghost because I just didn't know what to do or how to handle the situation or whatever. And so I just kind of like stopped talking to them, stopped asking them to hang out. And this is the shitty part. This is like not a good thing about me. This is like a red flag that I have. But it's like looking back, I feel a little bit bad because it's like I wonder, it's like shitty for me to leave someone wondering what they did, I guess. It's not cool. I guess to a certain extent, though, sometimes I'm like, you couldn't figure it out. In some instances, it's obvious, but others not so much. And I think that I take advantage of the way that friendships are cloudy and there's not a definitive beginning and end. And so I take advantage of the fact that I don't like have to be like, hey, we're not friends anymore. I can just ghost, and that's like an acceptable thing. If you're in a relationship with somebody, you're like dating them, you can't just ghost them. Like you can't just be dating them and then one day just be like, I'm done with this, and then just block them on everything. I mean, you could, I guess, essentially. That'd be really fucked up though. That'd be so fucked up. But like in a friendship, that's like roughly like kind of normal for people to just kind of drift apart and maybe not be so close. And maybe there's reason for that. And maybe there's not. Like I've had friendships. One of my best friends from when I was younger, when I was a kid, when I was like fucking like we were really, really close in like 5th, 6th, grade. We're still friends in high school. This is my friend Margaret. Like I can name drop here. We were very, very close. And they just like as college hit, they had moved away to Maine and I had moved to Cleveland. I went to Kent and now I'm in California and I just like I haven't spoken to her in a really long time. No bad blood at all. I really hope that she's doing well. Like I would love to see her again. I would love to hear from her. But it's just, but I think we both can understand that like shit happens. Life gets in the way. Things get really, really busy at times. I have not forgotten about her. Margot, if you were to listen to this episode, I've not forgotten about you. I think about you every once in a while and I hope you're doing really, really great. I'd love an update. I'd love to give her one, but I can also understand that like sometimes that just happens, like sometimes, shit just happens. Life gets in the way and things start coming up and relationships and long distance friendships are really, really hard. Especially I've been in California for over a year now. And I'm happy to say like I haven't lost a lot of long distance relationships by any means. I would say to a certain extent before I moved here, I was already doing that though, because I have a lot of really, really solid friendships from high school, arguably even middle school. And we all went to college somewhere else. So when I was in college, I had like really good friends that were, 3 hours away in Columbus, 3 hours away in Findlay, 3 hours away in Cincinnati, like a couple hours away in BG. So like, obviously if they're like 3 hours away, I was not seeing them every weekend by any means. Some of them, I don't even know if I did see them during college, but we still FaceTime like maybe every 5 to 6 months. And I get to be caught up and hear from them and see what's going on. I'm really excited. I'm going home for Christmas. I'm going to be home for a week, which is kind of a long time. I was like nervous if that's too long, if you know what I mean. It's nice to come home, but sometimes it's like, I'm happy to go home. I'm happy to go back to LA too. I'm like ready to leave. But I'm excited because a lot of my friends are going to be home. They're going to be in Findlay that I have not seen in like a very long time. So I'm like excited to hopefully catch up with them in person. I don't even know if I'll be able to see them all because like it's so hard being away. And then when I come home, like 7 days is really not that much. And obviously my family wants to see me the most. But then, you try to make plans with your friends, but then they're also home for their holiday. So I have a friend, Brittany lives in like North Carolina. So like she hasn't seen her family either. So when she's coming home, she's trying to see her family too. So it's like, I really hope that I can see them all. And I'm excited to see any of them. But also I think it's really important with long-term friends, or long distance besties to like be empathetic and understanding to the fact that, it's really hard. It's not a matter of them not prioritizing you. It's just like shit gets in the way and people are in serious relationships now and they have houses and some of them are married and like, and like I said, they need to see their own family. So, yeah, shit happens. And yeah, it's hard when they haven't seen their siblings in a while either. So, as long as you can be really understanding, empathetic that it's not that they don't care about you. It's that we have so many people that we care about that we're trying to see them all. But something that I want to talk about in regards to friendship is like the difficult stuff, the confrontation, the communication. Like I said, can be really hard for me. I feel like since I've been in California, I've met some really good friends out here. And something that sparks my attention in like a friend is I'm usually like when I start to like become friends with someone, like maybe like acquaintances or work buddies or whatever, I start to kind of look at them in a lens of like, is this someone that I want in my circle? Is this someone who's, not only going to like, is just my type of person, but is also someone who like, do they have similar habits to me? Do they have similar goals to me? Do they have like, similar interests? But it's like, are they going to like make me better or make me worse type of thing? And I mean this like to the full extent. So one of my friends, like I think that I can come off sometimes as a bit of like, not like an aggressive person, but like a confident person. And that can like deter some people away from me if they're a little bit insecure. And I'm not saying this is like, oh, look, I'm so like whatever. No, I just mean like in general, if you're confident in who you are, some people who aren't confident in who they are, they're uncomfortable with those kind of people. But what I look for in friends specifically and partners, but like just in general, people in my inner circle is people who will call me out on my shit. I'm like really attracted to that kind of person because I'm really interested in being a better version of myself always. And I know that I can come off as a little bit of like, not abrasive, maybe like unapproachable, I guess, sometimes. Just, I don't know why. Maybe it's just like the way that I carry myself, or maybe it's just a confidence thing. I hope that it's not like arrogant or ego, but I hope that it is like, I know who I am and I'm sure of myself. I am. And I know who I am for the most part. And I'm pretty comfortable in like how I treat people and how I talk to people and whatever. And I'm not interested in changing myself for people to like me. You know what I mean? Like I am who I am and I know that I'm great. I'm a joy to be around. I'm funny. And the right people will come to me and the wrong people will hopefully clear out. You know what I mean? And so I really like having people around who are not afraid to approach me and call me out on my shit. And I had a friend do this to me recently, maybe like a month or two ago. I had gone out to the bar with one of my other friends, and the friend that was not there was basically like, oh, if you guys need a ride home, let me know. And then like we were caught up at the bar, and then I was like, oh, look, you should come out to the bar. You should come out to the bar. And like the friend that wasn't there was like, I don't want to come to the bar. Like I'm like in for the night. Like I'll pick you up if you need a ride, but like other than that, like I don't want to come to the bar. I don't want to pay a cover fee. Like I'm like in. And I had said something like, oh, well, now these guys are hitting on us at the bar. Like, will you please come save us, blah, 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 whatever. And it didn't like turn into like a thing, but I guess I kind of like, I wasn't like guilting him, but I was like kind of guilting him into like, oh, come save us. These guys are at the bar. Like you should come to the bar. And he was kind of like, that wasn't cool. Like he just was like, it's not my job to come save you. And, if something was really going on, obviously I would come help you, but like, don't make a situation something that it's not just to like get me to come to the bar, And I don't know. It was an interesting situation, but I like really respected his ability to come to me and like say that to me and be like, hey, I value our friendship. And so I want to talk about this because I'm feeling some type of way about how this was handled and I want to be able to move forward from it. Because I didn't think it was cool. You know what I mean? Like if you need a ride, of course, ask for a ride, but like, don't make a situation something that it's not. And I was like super uncomfortable at first. I was like, holy fuck. Like I didn't like that at all. Like, no, nobody likes being called out. But I sat with it for a little bit, obviously. And I tried to like, figure out where he was coming from. And he was not rude about it at all. He was not like attacking my character or anything like that. He was very understanding and empathetic and was like, listen, I know you just went through a breakup, and stuff. So like you're, just in general having a hard time. But he was like, I deserve to be treated better than that. And I was like, at first, again, just like annoyed and like, whatever, this is whatever. And then I was like, I really, really respect that. And anybody who's willing to like stand up to me and like come to me in like an adult and mature fashion and be like, hey, I care about you. So we got to talk about this. And also like have enough self-worth to be like, I don't deserve to be treated that way. But I totally get it. I can understand where you're coming from. Like, can we talk about this and like see how we can avoid it in the future? And I don't know, that like really stood out to me. Not a lot of people are that way. And I think it's important for not only for us to be able to communicate and tell our friends when something they've done is bothering us, but also to be receptive to when somebody comes to us and is trying to solve a problem with us, to try to like not internalize it. I know it's really hard when someone tells us that we've done something wrong or done something to hurt them. It's like really hard to not internalize it and think that they're attacking our character and think that they're coming for us as a person. It's like, it's so hard not to do that. Like, again, like when he first came to me, I was like, fuck you. I'm not doing that. I wasn't like pretending to make a situation something that it wasn't, you know what I mean? And I just like immediately got defensive. And this has happened to me multiple times in the past. There was this like situation, I'm like not even going to get into it, but there was like this very, very big volleyball situation. It was very dramatic. It was a lot of shit going on. Maybe I'll tell that story another day, but it's like a long one. It's like a very long story. Volleyball was like really hard my senior year of high school. There was like 3 captains. I was one of them. And like the team was like split in half and like always fighting, always going at each other's necks, always something new too. And that was a time where one of my friends had come to me and been like, I think that you might be like a little, like being a little selfish here, being a little this or that, whatever. And it's hard to not internalize those things. I've been called selfish many times before, which is ironic because I preach about being selfish on this podcast. But I do think to a certain extent, I'm very good at being self-aware. And like I can take the time to like take a step back and evaluate a situation and say like, okay, Amber, were you being selfish? Or were you just taking care of your own needs? You know, like to a certain extent, and like I've said many times before, we should all be more selfish. You need to take care of yourself. And if someone's calling you selfish, you really need to step back and ask like, why? Why are they saying that? And figure out like, are they just saying that because you finally decided to take care of yourself? Or were you actually being an asshole? It's both are optional. Like both could have been what's happening there. So it's just really important to like try to be self-aware and be able to like almost take a step back from a situation and evaluate it from an outside perspective, which is hard. This is like a hard thing to do. But if you can like remove yourself emotionally and just try to evaluate a situation as like, oh, what's going on with me and my friend right now, if I were like a third party and my friend was telling me about this situation, like how would I feel about it then? You know what I mean? Like who would I think's in the wrong or right? Because we're not perfect. You know, I'm not fucking perfect. And it's difficult to not internalize when someone's telling you that they've upset you. And for some reason in relationships, I'm significantly better at this. I don't know why, but like, I feel like in my last relationship, I was really good at problem solving, communicating, and like not internalizing things and like trying to be like, again, like receptive when someone tells you that you've hurt them. But it's hard. It's important to remember that you're not a bad person. You've done a bad thing. And that's okay. Like we should be able to sit with that, you know, like well, you're going to do bad things. You know, you're human. Like you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make the wrong choice. And that's okay. But what's most important that comes of it is like taking accountability for it. And I found it really difficult during that last situation that I just explained to figure out what the fuck I did wrong. But when I took my step back, I was like, well, you definitely were making a situation something that it wasn't. You didn't need saved from the bar. There was no like, yes, I was talking to these guys at the bar. They were not an imminent threat. They were not posing any danger. They were not being aggressive. Like I did not need saved. So I'm like, if I can look at this from an outside perspective, yes, I was kind of using that as bait to try to get my friend to come out to the bar. So I can see how that could be kind of upsetting to somebody who's like already said no. This is a problem that I also struggle with heavily is like when I say no to somebody and they keep asking me, and they keep kind of hounding me for something, that bothers me too. So I can totally understand how if somebody else told me no and I like kept bothering them, that's like not cool. You know what I mean? Like respect other people's boundaries and the shit that they say, even in like small ways. Like small boundaries are important too. Of course, larger boundaries are important. But like, I think it's just like important to like listen to people when they're talking to you and telling you that they don't want to do something or they do. Even if it's not like a big deal or a small deal, it's like, I don't know. Nobody wants to be like hounded to hell to do shit. But effort, I think, is a difficult thing in relationships for me. And that's something that I'm kind of navigating right now is like when I meet someone and we're kind of like acquaintances, and I'm kind of looking at them like, oh, like, is this a friendship that's going to go somewhere? Is this a long-term friend? Is this a short-term friend? That's kind of how I gauge how much effort I put into it. So I don't know if I've talked about this before. I don't think I have. But so like if someone that I'm like an acquaintance with, or maybe just like a work friend with, is doing something that's upsetting me, Obviously, depending on what that thing is. This is like pretty important. But like, let's just say, like, I don't know, they like do some things that I don't like. I have a choice to communicate about it or not. But I think it's important to evaluate how important this friendship is to you, because if I'm not interested in pursuing the friendship, then I personally don't see any reason to communicate my needs to that person. Because I think when you have a problem with someone and you communicate that you have an issue with them, it's an invitation to solve the problem. If you have no desire to solve the problem or to continue to cultivate a relationship with that person, then there's no reason to bring up the problem. You know what I mean? And that might sound a little shitty, I guess. And obviously it depends on your relationship with the person. But like I said, I was trying to give an example of like, if it's a work friend, someone that you're not close to, it's just an acquaintance, you're not best friends, you don't have like this like deep foundation together. You're just like, you know, you see them often or whatever, and they do something that upsets you. I think it's like totally fine to just say in your head, you know what? Like, I don't think I want to spend more time with that person. I don't think I want to put more effort into that person, you know? Maybe outside of, work or whatever this is, I don't want to hang around that person or whatever it could be. And I don't think it's like always necessary to communicate that kind of thing. And that kind of, I don't know, it kind of goes against, I feel like, what the normal person would say. But again, like telling someone that you have an issue with them is an invitation to solve the problem. If you have no desire to solve the problem, it's like almost like shitty, I feel like, to bring up the problem to them, almost like dangling in front of their face, like, oh, hey, like you did this and it upset me and that's why I'm not gonna be friends with you. And then they're sitting there like, okay, well, like I can like change that. Like we can talk about a solution together. We can work through this. And you're like, no. It's like, I feel like it might've just gone better unsaid, if that makes any sense at all. Obviously it would depend on the relationship, but effort's a tough one. I'm usually evaluating the people around me, not in a weird way, but just like thinking about like how I feel like I've been doing this lately is like prioritizing the people in my life, who gets to be in my inner circle and who doesn't, who gets to hear what's going on in my life or not. Because friendships are time and energy, and money too. To be honest with you, friendships are time, money, and energy. And not all that is super expendable. I don't have limitless money, time, or energy. And so I'm trying to hone in and focus on like the people in my life who, make me feel good, support me in my career, challenge me to be a better person, make me laugh. I enjoy their company, treat me with respect. You know what I mean? Like prioritize me as a friend. And I don't want to prioritize people who don't do those things for me either. And in the same way, I want to give those things back to them. I want to give my effort and my friendship and to the people who do that for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to be pouring my cup into somebody who's not pouring back, So like my friends who are good friends, I want to treat them better. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I feel like this concept has come up with me a few times in life with a few friends, is that once I'm friends with somebody and I'm like friends with everybody. I'm not like best friends with everybody. Like I don't really let everyone in like my inner circle, but I am pretty like inclusive in general, and I'm very open-minded, and I like definitely try not to be the person who's like, oh, I have enough friends, I can't hang with them. No, I definitely try not to be that person, because I don't think that's cool. I don't think being exclusive is cool. I don't think having a cap on like, oh, I'm full on friends is cool at all. Like I definitely, like, especially throughout childhood, my best friend Brittany was like very like inclusive, and like I feel like she taught me very well that like everyone's included. Like it's being exclusive is not cool. It's just not. Like everyone's invited, of course. However, obviously once you start getting close to people and you start to think about like your inner circle of like best friends, it is important to be a little selective and picky of who you let in your inner circle, who you pour your energy and time into. And that is something that I don't let everyone into. Because I don't know. I take it really seriously, the people that I spend my time with. And I feel like what's happened a few times to me is I'm a very good, reliable friend, but also I can be a little like, I can be pretty understanding, I think. So like if my friends were to like need to cancel on me, they need to change something on me, like I have very deep, meaningful connections with people and a lot of empathy. So if my friends need to change plans on me, I try to be very, very flexible, very fluid. I understand shit comes up. Again, I've got a ton of like long distance besties. Like obviously if we're not talking for 6 months at a time, like I've learned to be very, very flexible and understanding because shit comes up. And I'm the same way with my friends in person. Like obviously it'd be shitty if I kept making plans with a friend and she kept flaking on me all the time. But if somebody has to flake or whatever, or works come up, like I try not to be that person who like holds a grudge and gets mad and is like, you can't cancel on me. Like we had plans. Obviously like it'd be shitty if my friends kept canceling on me. But again, like shit comes up with work or whatever, money, this and that. And so I try to be really understanding in all my relationships. But I do think what's happened to me before in the past is I've gotten burned on that a few times, because let's say I have a friend and she's friends with me. Her and I are like very close. We have a deep, meaningful relationship. And she views me as someone who's really reliable and understanding. And then she has this other friend who she's not as close to as me. Maybe this friend is not as understanding or empathetic and is a little more demanding and needy. My like friend, my close friend, I feel like I should have given them names. What should we give them names? I can't think of like any names at all right now. We'll call this one Emma. We'll call this friend Emma, like the close friend to me that has a deep, meaningful relationship with me. We'll call this one Kelly, and just for the sake of the video. Kelly's the outside friend. Kelly's not friends with me. Kelly's the needy friend of Emma's. So it's like if I had plans with Emma to go do whatever, but then Kelly was like trying to make plans with Emma, and like Kelly was like relentless, like getting upset that like Emma won't cancel or move her plans with me. I've had this happen to me before where my Emma friend would like cancel on me for Kelly, for the reason being that she's closer to me and she knows that if she cancels on me, I'll be fine. I'll be there. I'll be understanding. I'll be like, it's fine. We'll hang out next week. No big deal. Whereas she knows if she were to cancel on Kelly for me or whatever, vice versa, she would not be understanding and not be as empathetic and understanding. And that's something that's happened to me like a few times in life, not often. But it's a little bit bothersome. Like it doesn't feel super great. But again, I try to be like, I'm really understanding. I like don't care. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. We can see each other next week. It's really no big deal. But after that happens so many times, it feels a little bit like you're taking advantage of me, you're taking advantage of the fact that you know that I'll always be there and I'll always be understanding. And I don't mind, you canceling on me, and you canceling on me for somebody else who is less understanding doesn't feel great because that person seems like a much worse friend than I, So like, I don't know. I've been a little mindful of that kind of shit recently. My friends like priority list and how they're prioritizing me and making time for me because I make time for them, And like I said before, I'm confident in who I am. I'm a good friend. I am. Like I prioritize my friends. I am there for them when they need me. And I'm understanding when shit comes up. And one thing that I'm not great about is like conflict and like communication. But that's something I'm working on as well. So we're all a work in progress. But yeah, so those are things that I've been like mindful of lately. But shit we're working on this week is just going to be evaluating your friendships, prioritizing people who support you and uplift you, and making sure that like we're making time for the right people. I think like a month ago I wasn't, to be honest with you. Like I was kind of spending a lot of time on people who like they were not long-term people in my life, and they weren't going to long-term like help me and uplift me. So shit I'm wondering this week is like, do you internalize your mistakes? Like how do you feel like you receive that kind of feedback, healthy feedback? And how do you give it to? How are you working through like conflict management and friendships? And do you have an easier time with romantic or platonic relationships in regards to communication? Because I don't know. I feel like I've gotten a lot of mixed answers from that. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say. But that's all I got for you this week. So that's the shit I'm fucking working on, thinking about. If you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok at Amber Meisner with 2 R's. And I will see you on the next one because friendships are hard.